Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matthew Kistart, and I have the honor of introducing this morning's guest speaker, Command Sergeant Major Patrick Z. Alston. Command Sergeant Major Patrick Z. Alston is currently the Command Senior Enlisted Leader of the United States Strategic Command. U.S. STRATCOM combines the synergy of the U.S. Legacy Nuclear Command and Control Mission with responsibility for space operations, global strike, global missile defense, and global command, control, communications, computers, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, and combating weapons of mass destruction. This dynamic command gives national leadership a unified resource for greater understanding of specific threats around the world and the means to respond to those threats rapidly. Prior to becoming the Command Senior Enlisted Leader of the United States Strategic Command, he served as the CSM of the U.S. Army Technical Escort Battalion in Edgewood, Maryland, Division Chemical Sergeant Major for the 2nd Infantry Division, Korea, CSM of the 23rd Chemical Battalion, 19th TSC, Korea, CSM of the 23rd Area Support Group, 19th TSC, Korea, 10th Regimental CSM of the Chemical Corps, Command Senior Enlisted Leader, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, STRATCOM Center for Combating WMD. A graduate of Columbus High School, he is currently working on his Bachelor's of Science degree in leadership with a concentration in management from Trident University. His military schools include Command Sergeant Major's Course, Sergeant Major Academy, Class number 51, First Sergeant Course, Commandant's List, Advanced Non-Commissioned Officers Course, Honor Grad, Basic Non-Commissioned Officers Course, Commandant's List, Primary Leadership Development Course, Commandant's List. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Patrick Z. Alston, Command Senior Enlisted Leader of the United States Strategic Command.
All right, great job. Great job. It's over now, right? All right, great. Hey, so first of all, let me take this opportunity to truly thank you for what you are about to do each and every day. As you know, only 1% of our great citizens will get an opportunity to don this uniform. But what does that mean? If we really put that in perspective, what that means is that there are 297 million Americans standing on your shoulders each and every day to enjoy the freedoms they enjoy. But what I would ask you to do is, that number is so astronomical that I would ask you to really reach into that number and have a defined understanding of what you're doing by standing in that gap. If you really stop and think for a moment, when is the last time that we really had a tremendous amount of disruption of our American citizens on our soil? Come on, all you are about to be college grads. You look real astute, real smart. I don't need you to be real quiet. I need you to dialogue with me. Huh? Wait, let me try that again. Huh? So when is the last time that we really disrupt Americans' way of life? When is the last time that we put our American citizens in the same category as we have the Iraqi citizens, as we have the Afghani citizens, as we have the other 120 countries that we're involved with, citizens of a third world? Somebody tell me. Come on now, I'm going to give out some coins. Bring me some coins up here. Coins always make people talk. And really they make them talk when they're dealing with me, because I carry 14-karat gold coins. And so if you would have got a chance to interface with me prior to going to college, you could have used my coin and went to college of choice, as long as it was equal to the college tuition at Duke University. If you would have just put it in a USA Today saving box. So somebody tell me, when is the last time? I'm going to walk down here so I can be close to you as we dialogue for a few minutes. Is that all right with you? All right, let me get down here. This is kind of weird. I got to go out of your view, but I'm back. So somebody tell me, when is the last time? What school you go to? You probably will never graduate. So, no, it's been some. When is the last time? Civil War. The Civil War is truly the last time. You wait for your coin? All right. Civil War is truly the last time that we disrupt our great American citizens' way of life. I mean, yes, we had Pearl Harbor. Yes, we had 9/11 where we lost 3,000 lives, and I never discredit that. But truly, the last time that we were the home team on the home soil and disrupting America's way of life was the Civil War. We are always considered the best home team at an away game. Would you agree? But because you're standing in the gap, because each and every one of you took the opportunity to say, I will not allow the terrorists or the adversaries to embark on my family's way of life, is the reason why we haven't had an incident here since the Civil War. But let's think a little bit more about it. Let's take a chance just to really dive into it and think about what you're doing. How do you think the terrorists or the Taliban or Daesh or however you want to equate them was successful with their mission of 9/11? Do you actually think 9/11 started September 11, 2001? How many people think it started then? When do you think it started? And what gave them the inkling that they could be successful on embarking on a territory that haven't been embarked on since the Civil War? Somebody talk to me. What made them think they could be successful? Okay, that's one. Somebody else tell me. How about because they saw the seams and gaps that were established? How about because they watched the TSA process and they truly understand that there was seams and gaps that would allow them to commandeer 3 aircrafts and hit 3 distinct locations? Anybody know what those locations are? And they're not the locations they hit, but they're the locations they plan to hit. I sure hope y'all do better with y'all professor. Okay, what you got down there? You sitting next to the guy that said nothing, so you want to be careful. All right, what you got? What do you think the 3 locations that were truly their intention to hit? Remember, we're talking about standing in the gap. We're talking about your ability to allow your loved ones, your mother, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, niece, and nephew, to enjoy the freedoms they enjoy each and every day. You allow them to go to Walmart if they want to go to Walmart. You allow them to drive a Cadillac if they want to drive a Cadillac. You allow them to choose a college of choice if they want to go to college, because you're staying in the gap. But let's talk about why that gap is so important that we must close down on it. Okay, World Trade Center, nope. Pentagon, don't feel bad. Yes. White House, yes. What was the third building? What was the third building they really, really wanted to hit, because those 3 decisive places would cripple America's way of life? Let me go right back here. I'm coming back to you. He had the same uniform you had on, so I don't want to embarrass you. So let me go right here. Capitol. And so think about it for a moment. If they could have hit the White House, right? What happens in the White House? Let me put in some terminology for you. Where do you think the final draft, the final corrections, the final dressings of the national security strategy come from? Commander-in-Chief. And where is he at? Where do you think really the National Defense Strategy and the National Defense Authorization Act, I'm throwing some terminology out at you, what do you think those are defined at? White House and Capitol Building, right? Capitol Building has to define the National Defense Authorization Act because that's what Congress is authorizing us to have, right? Like, okay, for instance, if you had an opportunity to read the National Defense Authorization Act, you would understand that in that act, it determines our end strength. National Defense Authorization Act of 2016 clearly states that the United States Army will go from 490,000 down to 475,000 by 30 September 2016. It tells that the United States Marine Corps will go from 184,100 to 184,000 by 30 September 16. That is the document that defines what happens within the ranks of our armed forces. And then if you talk about the national military strategy, Who signs that? Who defines the national military strategy? Who's responsible for that? Who signs that document where it starts, the National Military Strategy of 2016, first page says this. It's a quote by the former chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, where he echoes these words. This is the most unstable world that I have seen in my 40 years of service. That's what General Dempsey said. So who do you think is responsible for that national military strategy? How about the chairman? But it's defined in the Pentagon, right? So if they could have hit those 3 locations, they could have crippled our way of life. And because they saw those seams and gaps that were established at our TSA process, if any of you had an opportunity to fly out of Europe in about some of you weren't, how many of you were born in 1980? Man, you were the only one born in 1980? Okay. I'm going to give you a coin for that. You were born in 1980. Come on up here. Come on up here. All right. You would have noticed that the TSA process of 1980 in Europe is what it is in the United States today. And so by them watching that, by them pulling the intel, by them doing the research, by them doing the analysis, they knew I may not be able to establish a weapon of mass destruction, but I can definitely commandeer a weapon of mass disruption. And what happens when you disrupt America's way of life? What happens? You know, we're the most Gucci country in the world, right? We're used to having everything our way. And when you disrupt our way of life, what happens? We then could start to turn on who? Each other. We start to have mass confusions within the ranks. And they understood that. And so by you saying, I will stand in the gap, you have allowed your loved ones to enjoy those freedoms. But what I want to really leave with you today is not the point of you understanding what you have took a charge to do. But what I truly want to leave you with is what I ask you to charge your non-commissioned officers to do. Because as you know, when you leave the ranks of where you are today and you embark on your active duty career, you are in charge. It is no doubt about it. You are mandated by Congress. Your authorizations come from Congress. You're in charge. But you would have that unique opportunity to have that non-commissioned officer as your battle buddy. You would have that unique opportunity to pull from a tremendous amount of years of experience and knowledge as you go down your path of successful career. But I need you to understand something. I need you to understand that you must challenge that non-commissioned officer. And you must challenge him or her to understand the clientele in which you're charged to lead. Somebody tell me, somebody define the clientele in which you are charged to lead. Anybody want to throw a hint at it? Okay, go ahead. Okay, so tell me about the soldiers that you're charged to lead. So let me help you out. The clientele that you're charged to lead is not the clientele of yesterday. It's not the clientele of the greatest generation this world has ever known. It is the great-great-grandkids of the greatest generation ever, but it's not that clientele. The clientele that you are charged to lead and the clientele that I need you to charge that non-commissioned officer to lead is a clientele that is more inquisitive than ever before. Yes, I'm talking about your generation. I'm talking about the millennial generation. I'm talking about a generation that has all knowledge in the palm of their hands. Would you agree? I see somebody with a smartphone right here. This smartphone gives this generation the ability to be in real time. Would you agree? And you can't lead somebody in real time if you ain't on your game. Because I will tell you, Google is the worst enemy of a non-commissioned officer. Why? Because non-commissioned officers, we like to quote regulations. Would you agree? We like to act like we know everything. Would you agree? We'll tell you what 670-1 says in a moment, whether it's right or wrong. Would you agree? The problem is, when I was coming up, it didn't matter what my non-commissioned officer said, because it was the truth. If they say it was raining in the middle of a sunny day, I'm getting an umbrella. Because my faith and belief was in that non-commissioned officer. And he had that inherent power and inherent authority simply because who he was. And I didn't question him. But the generation you're dealing with today is a generation that's inquisitive, that is smart, and that is connected. And if you think you will not lose the ability to have that influence power, I'm talking about non-commissioned officers, because you would have authority power because simply you are a commissioned officer. But if you think your non-commissioned officers won't lose that ability to have that influence power because of lack of knowledge, you're sadly mistaken. And so I need you to charge them to be on their game. I need you to charge them to understand that what comes out of their voice will be challenged. Would you agree? I need you to understand this also. I'm going to throw some numbers out at you. 19, 5, 6, and 11. 19, 5, 6, and 11. And those numbers were derived since 14 February 2016. If you add those numbers together, they should come out to 41. 41 young American sons and daughters had decided to take their lives since January 1, 2016 to February 14, 2016. Almost one a day. And the reason why I throw those numbers out to you is because I need you to understand that we're dealing with a different clientele. When I was coming up, I would kill somebody else before I ever thought about killing myself. It was nowhere in my decision-making process. But I'm here to tell you that it's in this generation's decision-making process. If you add inquisitiveness, so let me give you an example, because you look like you're a little confused. Are you confused right now? Are you confused, or will you want me to give you an illustration? Let me give you an illustration right now. Come on up here. Oh, I was going to keep it. Okay, now you can get back to it. Now I better hold on to it for a minute. Come on up here. Let me use you. You look good. Come on up here. So I'm going to give you an illustration because, see, it's important that we understand what and who we're charged to lead. Because I will tell you that the adversaries are watching each and every day. And if we establish a seam, a gap, they will exploit it in a moment. And so they're looking today and they're saying they're killing themselves faster than we can kill them. Talking suicide. How many suicides do you think we had last year? How many suicides? Active duty. How many suicides? Active duty you think we had last year? We had 365 days, right? What if I told you 387 young American sons and daughters took their life? Took their life. And we're finding out that this is an epidemic because this generation believes that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But let's talk about this generation, because I need you to be able to charge your non-commissioned officers to be engaged with these young American sons and daughters. You need to understand 83% of the armed forces wear stripes. 17% of the armed forces wear bars and stars. So if you are not able to mentor, coach, teach, and train and focus that 83%, we will definitely have a seam and gap established that adversaries will exploit. Let's talk about this generation. So here we go. So we're going to use you. Come here, because you got all the ribbons and ropes on. Come on up here. Whose phone do I have so I can make sure I give it back to you? I'm going to make a couple long-distance calls, but it really don't matter because it's free. So for illustration purposes, here's little Johnny. Little Johnny decides that he has a future and he wants to move forward. He wants to do great things. But before little Johnny gets an opportunity to embark on that future, we need to be able to define the clientele. we need to understand how little Johnny had the basic platform or the basic foundation of his life established. Little Johnny is raised by two great Americans. We'll call her Mama Ruth and Father John. Mama Ruth and Father, you're happy. Stop smiling. They are in the economy of today. What do the economy of today cause parents to have to do? Work. When I grew up, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, when I got off that school bus, my mom was at home. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that my mom was going to meet me and greet me and check my homework. Am I right? There's no doubt about it. The economy of the 70s and 80s allowed a parent to stay at home. But if you look at the environment of the 21st century, it causes what? Both parents to work. Am I right? Y'all got to get motivated now. I'm going to stop talking. Well, no, I better not say that because then y'all won't get motivated because you want me to stop talking. But both parents are charged to work. And so they want to be able to give him everything he needs to develop him. But in order to provide the necessary, essential minimum for his lifestyle, they must work. And so that takes them out of the household. So because they're working, who's raising him? How about MTV, VH1, the friends he wants to listen to, the friends he don't want to listen to? Check this out. He is so popular. He is so popular. He's got 5,000 friends on Facebook and haven't met one of them. Am I right? Do we not brag about what we have in cyberspace even though it's not reality? Hey, Sergeant Major, I got friends, man. You just don't know. I got more friends than you ever would have. Describe one to me. Well, I really can't do that, but I got about 5,000 of them. And so he's raised by what we consider to be every external being and meaning that he can grasp to. But what else do we have? Since he's being raised primarily by the social network, by the cyberspace, and by himself, what have we established with him? Huh? What else? What have we established? How about this? How about we establish the fact that from the time he's making his basic foundation, he's in control? Would you agree? Because remember now, he's raised by VH1, right? And so what happens if something come on VH1 and he don't want to watch it? He changed the channel. What happens if one of those 5,000 friends aren't echoing the words that make him happy? He unfriends them. Who in the hell ever heard you can unfriend somebody? By a click of a button, he unfriends them. And so he's already established the fact that he's in control as he's making that basic foundation. Would you agree? And now you say, Sergeant Major, but why is this important? Because if we don't know the clientele we're dealing with, how do we deal with them? And so here he is. He's already been able to be in control, and he's already been able to demonstrate that because he's raising himself to a point because mom and dad is not wanting to raise him, but the economy is causing both of them to work. So now little Johnny's at the point where he decides, I want to play sports. And so he goes out and he talks to the local coach of the Pop Warner team, and he decides, yep, this is my future. I'm going to be a running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. So he signs up for this little league team. And he's probably decent. No, let's be honest. He's the worst football player in the history of Kansas City. But yet he's on this team. He's so bad that they don't even tell him when the games are. But we must understand that because mom and dad has allowed him to play, they have already purchased three things. Somebody help me out. What's the three things your parents play for when you want to play sports? How about uniform, use of the field, and the trophy? And so regardless whether he's good, bad, or indifferent, when it's time for banquet time, come on up here, coach. Here's the trophy. Now remember, we're talking about the foundation that we're charged to lead. Because listen, we don't have a different clientele to select for in our ranks. We're not assessing a different clientele of America's sons and daughters. We're assessing what's there. We're assessing what's in this generation. So now you are charged. Mentor, coach, teach, train, focus. Get rid of gaps and seams with what you got. So now we're at trophy time. And you got to present him with a trophy. Remember, he's the worst football player ever on your team, but mom and dad's already bought the trophy. So what are the words you're going to echo to him? He's probably going to say something like, because now remember now mom and dad probably didn't come to a game because they was tired and they were working hard. But banquet time, they're there. And they're bringing little Johnny there, and the coach knows they're there. And the coach is saying, hey, what do it cost me to be nice? Because they already paid for the trophy. So I'm not taking this trophy away from anybody else, right? And so, man, you are great. You are the best player we ever had. We love you. Look forward to seeing you next year. What have we just established? What have we just established? A sense of entitlement. A sense of entitlement. Whether you're good, bad, or indifferent, you are expecting everyone to tell you how good you are. Would you agree? And so because you have that sense of entitlement, because you have that sense of belief, I'm going to tell you how it hurts you later on. And so here he goes now. So he goes through life playing sports, and he's terrible at every sport he's playing, but he's always getting a trophy and always told he's the best. Right? So now he's got that in his mind. He goes in his classroom and he fails a test. What happened if you fail a test in high school now? They give you another test. When I failed back in the 80s, guess what they did to me? They failed me. But now, because we're softer and gentler and nicer, we're going to give you a retest. And we're going to kind of help you pass the retest. Another sense of what? Entitlement. Now remember, these are troops that's going to fall in your ranks. That your non-commissioned officers are going to be charged to mentor, coach, teach, and train, and lead. So now he's got that sense of entitlement. So here he goes. So he's going through life, and one day he decides, I want to join the United States Army. So he goes there, and he goes to the recruiting station, and he says, I want to join the United States Army. And they run him through a series of different MOSs and everything. And now he's got an MOS, and now he's running down to what? The MEP station. And when he gets to the MEP station, he raises his right hand and he says, how many words? How many former enlisted members do we have in here? Raise your hand. Don't be shy now because you don't know how many words you said. Go and raise your hand a little bit higher. How many words did you say? Excuse me. How many words? How many words did you say when you took that enlisted oath? Nope. But that's a good guess. Who guessed 82? That was a good guess. Nope. How many words did you say? You're going to Google this later. I know you are. How about 72 words? How about 73 if you have a middle name? How about 74 if you have a hyphenated name? But the point is, out of those 70 plus words that you said, what was the most defining word for this generation? Huh? Nope. What's the most defining word for this generation? A word that this generation really has never had to associate with. A word this generation never had to define to themselves. A word that means more than anything to our American people. Because if we fail to do this word, we will establish that seam and gap that we're talking about. Nope. Hey, do I have any more coins? Okay, I got some. Nope. It's a word. It's a small word, but it's a powerful word that this generation has no idea about. You know what it is? Who said obey? Come on down here. Obey. Obey. And why is this generation not familiar with that word? Because they've always been in control. And if we fail to obey the officers appointed over us, if you're 83%, if your majority don't obey, what have we established in your ranks? Dysfunction, gaps, scenes, taking freedoms, embarking on our soil. See, it's a domino effect. It's a domino effect that we must be privy to understand what happens if we miss a gap. So obey. So he said, great. So he goes in and he now went to the map station and said those words, and now he's going to obey the officers appointed over him, and he's ready to move forward. Now remember now, he said obey, right? Is that not an oath? He said, even though he didn't understand it, he said, I would do it. And now he rolls on to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. 3rd of the 325 Infantry. Ready to get busy. First thing, he rolls in there and he runs into his team sergeant. Team sergeant looks at him and says, we got a lot of work to do. We got a whole lot of work to do. You are no way near the paratrooper I need you to be. What do those words start to do to him? He's now starting to hear things he's never heard before. And so he hears them, but he doesn't grasp them. And so day 5, 10, 12, 15, you name the day, he starts reflecting the ability to be the worst soldier in the history of the 82nd Airborne Division. And so now it's time for that team sergeant to really pull him up by the bootstraps, to really tell him how he is lacking the ability to represent this organization. And so, come here, team sergeant. All right, mom and dad, slide down because I don't want you to get all upset because somebody's getting, doing your job that you didn't do 17, 18 years ago. That was a joke. Mom and dad was working. So here's the team sergeant. And team sergeant, I want you to just alight. I mean, you're at the brink of no return. You're tired. He's missing everything, and somebody else has got to do his work, and your team is not performing at the standards, and this is your missing link, and it's time for you to get him. It's time for you to get him. It's time for you to get him. Now, what I need you to do is I need you to grasp the understanding that his foundation was built by him. He was in control of his foundation. He defined his foundation. He's always been told he's great. He's never been disappointed. He's never had the ability to be forced in a true dialogue with an individual. This is the clientele that I need you to charge your non-commissioned officers to mentor, coach, teacher, train, because we're not able to pull from a different barrel. The barrel is what we got. We rehearsed this. Go ahead, get him. Well, okay. Let me get him.
I think you have more experience.
Because I'm a little scared right now. She said, I feel like Steve Harvey reading the wrong card. Okay, so let me get him. So now, so she's laying into him and she's telling him, really, you're not all that, and your stuff do stink, and you haven't performed, and you're not the right material, and we need to find another life for you. What do you think he does with this? What do you think he does? Do he call those 5,000 friends? What happens when you call those 5,000 friends and you got a bad situation and you're going through a bad situation? Are they there? You don't call them because you guys don't call everybody. You text people, right? And let me tell you why you text. You text because you want to have control, right? Think about it. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, answer the phone. Hey, listen, where you at? I just took control, right? He just gave me control. If I text him in all capital letters, what do you do with that text? He ignores it. He's got control. I was talking to General Raymond one day, one of our subordinate commanders, and he's a diehard Redskin fan. Him and his son, diehard. This when RG3 was doing pretty good. And we're sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings, and we're waiting for his son Gary to join us. And so General Raymond says, man, Sergeant Major, I called Gary 3 times. He won't not answer the phone. Where's he at? The game is about to start. I said, sir, text him. I'm not texting that boy. He better answer that phone. It's the same phone. I said, you could be frustrated or you could text him. He texted him. How long did it take Gary to respond? 1.2 seconds. I'm 5 minutes out, Dad. He says, why? Why would he answer the text and not answer the phone? I said, sir, because he's probably with his boys. And if he answers that phone and you start being irate, he cannot justify to his boys that he's the man. But that text can be from anybody he wanted to be from. The blonde in the corner, the girl that's running behind him. You know how we lie to our boys, right? Come on, y'all been lying to your boys your whole life. You know how we fabricate, we make it up to be more than what it is. But that texting gives you what? Control. Control. And so now we're at the point where we understand that the foundation that's being built is a foundation of control. It's a foundation that we know we're in charge. It's not a foundation that we have given that ability for somebody else to be in charge of us, or somebody else to tell us how we are, somebody else to berate us, or somebody else to tear us down. We've never been through that in our lives. We're 18, 19, 20 years old, and now somebody's telling us that our stuff stinks. What did he do with it? Internalize it. He's reached out to all these friends, and none of them are reaching back. Feels like he's in a dark tunnel by himself. He feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. 19, 5, 6, 11. You see where I'm going? You're dealing with a generation that has found it necessary to make a long-term decision for a short-term problem. We can't afford that in our ranks. We can't afford that. And the reason why I would tell you that in Alston's humble opinion it happens is because we are not training our mid-grade leaders to change the dynamics of their leadership from the way it was when they were coming up. What happens now if a young troop goes up to a non-commissioned officer and says, why? You mean to tell me you want me to move those chairs? Why, Sergeant? What happens? You mean to tell me that you want me to pass my PT test? Why, Sergeant? You mean to tell me that you want me to come to work early? Why? How do we react as non-commissioned officers when we're asked that question, why? Feel disrespected. Remember, I told you earlier, this is an acquisitive group. But is it bad for us to articulate why? We must understand that we, as leaders, must be able to define ourselves in their circle. We must be able to be a chameleon. We must be able to change our leadership ability, not our leadership philosophy, but the way that we execute that philosophy depending on the person we're dealing with. And if we don't, we would lose them. It's not bad for them to ask why. It's good they're asking why because some of us need to know why we're saying what we're saying in the first place. Because a lot of us don't. We say it because somebody told us to say it. We don't analyze what the directions we're giving out. And so I tell my truth, sometimes you ask me why, it just makes me stop and think, why? And if I can articulate why, then I'm building that foundation of trust even more. I would ask you to charge your non-commissioned officers to understand that we're not going to get a different group of America's sons and daughters. And we must be able to fit our leadership style within the confines of the ability to lead them. What is the art of leadership? What is the definition of leadership? The ability to influence somebody to what? Oh, man, he's real smart right there. Come on up here. What college you went to or going to? That ain't, man, I wouldn't tell nobody that. You got to be the smartest guy at that school. I am here. You're an engineer? I was. All right, great. But he's absolutely right. Say it again. What's the purpose of leadership?
Influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation.
How can you influence somebody if you don't know them? How can you influence somebody if you don't understand them? Look, when I was coming up, it was very easy to influence me. told me what to do, and I do it. My generation, we weren't dumb as a box of rocks, but we were sure enough close. We didn't want to think. I didn't join the United States Army 35 years ago to have to think. I joined because I want somebody to tell me what to do. And if you tell me what to do, I can do a good job at it. But this generation is a generation that's inquisitive. You're going to have people in your ranks that have just as much education as you have, if not more. You're going to have people in your ranks that are smarter as you are, if not smarter. You must understand, how do you motivate those individuals not to make a long-term decision for a short-term problem, but to understand the ability of what they're doing each and every day is allowing freedom to reign in this country of ours. That's my message to you, because I think that we're losing the foundation of what we're charged to do. The days of yelling and screaming and being able to curse the most and drink the most, those days are gone. The days of being able to mentor, coach, teach, train, lead, develop are here even more. And those non-commissioned officers you got, you need to charge them to do that. If you have a non-commissioned officer that's tied to your hip and he's just extra weight, get rid of him. Now you can say the sergeant major said that. You don't need nobody to drag you back. You need somebody to move you forward. Non-commissioned officer creed says one thing, and I live by it each and every day. Officers have maximum time to do their job because they will not have to do mine. I am there to make sure that my commissioned officers are the best commissioned officers they could ever be. My job and my charge is to make sure that he is successful at whatever level he's at. When I first got hired by an Air Force 4-star, General Kaler, I walked to his office and said, "Sir, you need to understand one thing. I'm here to make you successful." That joke almost slapped me. You here to do what? Air Force don't have the mentality that our commissioned officers have. They focus on platforms. And they don't have that interaction with the enlisted corps. So when I walked in and said, "I'm here to make you successful," he took it as a threat. But as time went on, he understood what I was saying. Sir, it's not about me, it's about you and this command. It's about making sure that you had the ability to focus on the things you need to focus on, because I'm going to take care of everything else. It's about me understanding, sir, that I'm the people's person. It's about me understanding that I need to be dug in. It's about me understanding that I need to free up your white space so you can be focused on the things you need to advise the President and Secretary of Defense about. And today we're best friends. Your non-commissioned officers need to understand that it's really about your success and not about them. If they think it's about them, they have missed the bubble. It's about your success and those great American sons and daughters that you all have the privilege to lead, to mentor, to coach, teach, and train. Any questions? Thank you all. Hey, Matt, bring enough coins for all of them. Well, you're not getting 2 coins. Man, this is the easiest coin you ever got. You didn't have to say nothing. You just had to stand there and look good. Thank you, Dad. Thanks, Mom.
Thank you, Sergeant Major.
You should have said something. But you're going to hold on to that coin, right? 14 karat gold. All right, so I only got about 13 minutes. You guys can say, now give them a big hand for me, please. You know, when I was first asked to do this, I said, man, I'm going to talk about the national defense strategy, the national military strategy, the national strategy. I'm going to talk about a unified command plan. Man, I'm going to talk about National Defense Authorization Act. I'm going to fill their head with all this great knowledge. Then I said, I don't know none of that stuff. So I'm just going to talk to them about what I know. Any questions?
My question is, who is the best officer you've worked with, and what qualities did they have that made them easy to work with?
The best officer, man, I would tell you, I make all my officers great, because that's what I'm charged to do. I don't define them as the best or the worst. I define them as some having more positive discriminators and some having more negative discriminators. And then I try to fit myself in the middle of whichever one I'm working with. But to be a great officer, to be a great officer, you have to be a listener. You have to be a listener. The average non-commissioned officer that you get tied to would have probably double the time, if not triple the time in the military you have. Why would you want to go through the same mistakes, heartaches, issues, and concerns that he's already been through? Listen. And you would hear the answer to most of your questions. Second characteristic of a great officer, inquisitive. Inquisitive. Don't think that you can't ask questions. We are humans. Regardless of what bars and stars you got or what stripes you got, we're still all human. Ask questions. Third good thing about a commissioned officer, know you're in charge. Know you're in charge. You don't have those bars for nothing. You're in charge. Fourth great thing, build that relationship. Make that non-commissioned officer want to make you the best of the best. So I really had no bad ones. I had all good ones. 3 minutes? Oh, I thought that's what it, okay. Next question.
Cadet Quach from City University of New York. My question is, as a lower enlisted soldier, what was the best or most memorable thing that your PL did for you? And as a platoon sergeant, what is the worst thing that your PL has ever done?
So as a young enlisted member, the best thing my PL ever did for me was allow me to make mistakes. Was allow me to make mistakes. Because I was able to learn from those mistakes. The worst thing a PL could ever do is look at you as you're somebody else. Never compare your soldiers. Each soldier is distinctly different. You may have that superstar that does 95,000 push-ups and 95,000 sit-ups and run 2 miles in a minute. Don't beat the next soldier down because he's not doing that. Charge that young soldier to say, if you're that good and the rest of my platoon is not that good, then you're really not that good because you're not giving back to your brothers and sisters. Never compare. Let individuals be individuals. Let your leadership style be the leadership style that is developed to take care of all that you're in charge of. Next question.
Sergeant Major, how do you find the balance of breaking the shell created by a hypersensitive society versus accepting reasonable social evolution with the goal of developing resilient soldiers, not soft ones?
So what I do is I look at everybody for the individual they are. So that takes me to this point. You know, you're going to be dealing with things that I never had to deal with. You're going to be dealing with what we call shaping the force. Shaping the force to look more like the clientele in which we're trying to assess. You're going to be dealing with don't ask, don't tell. You're going to be dealing with transgenders. You're going to be dealing with a lot of different social issues that's been accepted. How do you get after that? You get after that by understanding. Once you take this oath, you are to follow the laws that's put before you. And so if our Congress and our Senate, President, Secretary of Defense on down decided this is acceptable, you've got to accept them in your ranks. And you have to be able to mentor, coach, teach, and train them as you would do anybody else. So I want to be very, very ginger as I say this. You should never put down your religious beliefs. Whatever your religious beliefs are, they're your religious beliefs. But you should never force them on somebody else. That's the fine line you're going to have to balance. If you do not believe that women should be with women because of your religious belief, if it's acceptable in the ranks, you've got to deal with it. And you've got to treat that couple as though you would treat any other couple. Mentor, coach, teach, and train, help, support, caring. And so society is going to cause your ranks to change. You have to be able to adapt to the changes and still understand at the end of the day that the adversaries are looking for seams and gaps to exploit and looking for ways to disrupt America's way of life. Next question.
Sergeant Major Cadet Elliott from Appalachian State University. Say we're faced as a young platoon leader, partnered with an NCO that you described as the smoke, drinking, and yelling type of mentality. How do you help mentor and coach them into becoming more of the
So let me help you. Let me help you with that
the
question.
mentor, coach,
Man,
teach, and
sometimes
train?
it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. You probably need to fire his ass. I'm just telling you. I mean, I want you to give him all of the opportunities in the world to adjust to the way that he should be. But at the end of the day, one should not take 36 down. One should not take your entire platoon down. If you're trying your best to shape him where he is value added to the platoon and he is not accepting that shaping, then it's time for you to go into the commander and say, sir, I really, really tried. I did everything I could do. I need a new platoon sergeant. Because the other people, the majority is really going to be affected. Because you got to understand this. 83% of the armed forces is enlisted. 83% are thinking. So let me back it up. Maybe 79%. Because some of you are in here formerly enlisted and you thought, you could do greater things and you went to OCS and you are going to be great officers. Or you went to ROTC, you're going to be great officers. But the majority are thinking, I want to be like him because he's got the same thing I got. So who's going to have influence power? So if you condone that activity, don't be shocked if the rest of the platoon start acting that way. Make sense to you? So you've got to grab it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because he's going to influence those young America's sons and daughters because they think one day I could be just like him. Because he's got on what I got on. He's in that hierarchy that I'm in. And now you're fighting a battle. You're fighting a battle off authorities versus inherent influence. Next question.
Sergeant Major Cadet Singh, Fresno State. You mentioned the high suicide rates. What do you think we could do as young PLs in our formations to decrease those rates?
You've got to engage them on their level. I was one of the guys that said I would never do Facebook, I would never tweet, I would never do, so I wouldn't do any of that junk. I'm going to call you. I'm going to tell you where I want you to be at. I'm going to be in your face. That's not the way they communicate. And so in order for me to get with them, I got them. And so I got my exec. He's a Facebook. I hired because he's good at Facebook. My other exec, I hired him because he can tweet out stuff. Oh, we're going to meet him. We're going to meet him where we need to meet him at. And we're finding out as we do this today, leaving the drive here, I said, okay, let's stop. Let's take a picture of the vehicle, and let's say we're en route to Fort Leavenworth to talk to 350 great American sons and daughters that's in ROTC. Man, we done got about 75 likes. They looking at a vehicle. But it's about meeting them where they communicate at. And so the way we're going to get after the suicide rate is we've got to meet them on their grounds, and we've got to understand that they don't have relationship skills, so we've got to lower our skills to fit their skills and let them know their hope at the end of the day. That's the bottom line up front. They just want hope. They just want belief. They just want trust. How many of this generation you think have never, ever, ever really heard somebody wrap their hand around them and say, hey, I love you and I care about you? They read it. They read it on Facebook. They read it with a text but how many have really had to be in that situation where they're mano to mano and somebody's really talking to them? That's how we're going to get after the suicide rate. We got to, so one thing that we really got to do is we've got to get them to understand what it is to trust us. What it is to open up to us. What it is to talk to us. So what we found in StratCom was we open up a thing called a blog, right? You all know what that is, right? We just let them just air out. It's some consequences to it because then people just start talking all kind of stupid stuff. But it's how they release their inner feelings, right? Would you agree? And then every once in a while, you see something, you go like, oh, that don't look right. I need to go over to Johnny's room. And then you walk in Johnny's room, right? And he's got a $50,000 computer set and no linen on the bed. you know something is up. And then you start working on that trust factor, and then you find out all the third and fourth and fifth order effects that probably would lead him to be one of those statistics. But now he believes in you. And he's giving you a chance to be proactive instead of reactive. That's how we're going to get after it. All right, I got time for one more question, then I know somebody else is coming up after me.
Good morning, Sergeant Major. Cadet Gualdoni from Drexel University. My question is about the generational.
I'm coming to talk to your basketball team. They called me. They want me to come talk to them. What they like, 0-50? I'm going to try to help them. I'm going to get a win.
No,
I'm going to get
it's
one.
no good. They've been in the dumper for a while. But my question is about the generational gap that you spoke about.
Okay.
Do you believe that we as officers, because we're closer to the younger generation of enlisted men that are coming in now, do you believe we should directly be bridging that gap, or should we focus on our NCOs and helping them bridge that gap?
Twofold. First, we got to concentrate on the mid-grade leaders. So we got to concentrate on the guys that are articulating and dialoguing with them every day. You would be able to help that mid-grade E5 and E6 because, believe it or not, you may think that they're still part of the millennial generation, but they're at the lower end of it. And their ability to deal with it, articulate, and dive into it is a lot different. And I got to add this. We've been at 14 years continuous combat, right? So 14 years we've taught that mid-grade generation to do what? Take our young troops down range and bring them back alive, right? We haven't taught them to deal with domestic and bad check writing and fighting in the dorms and inspecting the back. We haven't taught them that stuff. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have a twofold job. As a platoon sergeant, you're going to have a twofold job. You're going to have to digest what this old platoon sergeant is telling you and kind of figure out what's right and what's wrong. And then you're going to have to also get down and mentor that 2 level down. And then on some days, you're going to have to go all the way down to the 3rd level, the young troops itself. But what I charge you to do is to make sure that that non-commissioned officer, that mid-grade non-commissioned officer, understand how value-added those troops are to you and how you understand the collaboration and what they're saying and what they're meaning and how they're feeling, and knowing that he can turn to you in a moment's notice to get mentor, coach, teaching, training, because it goes up and it comes down. You would be an effective platoon sergeant. Platoon leader. An effective platoon leader. But if you're a platoon leader that want to get in your own cubby hole and think my platoon sergeant better be able to handle all this stuff, you've got that knowledge that he really needs. So it needs to go both ways. Hey, look, it's been great spending time with you guys. I'm going to take another picture as I drive out, see if I get about 100 more likes. I want to take this opportunity to commend you for standing in the gap, commend you for coming at a time when we need you more than anything else, commend you for being the great commissioned officers you're going to be, understanding that we need you in order for, let me tell you about my mom right fast. So my mom loves Kentucky Fried Chicken. Love it like no tomorrow. So after I hit about 30 years in, I had enough guts to tell her one day, I said, hey, what you doing today? She said, what do you mean? I'm going to get a 2-piece. No, you're not. She's like, what the WTF? Who you think you're talking to? I said, only because I wear this uniform are you allowed to have those freedom of choices you have, and you'll not get Kentucky Fried Chicken today. She said, only because I gave birth to you am I allowed to kill you, and I'm en route. God bless you. How you doing, sir?
Sergeant Major, on behalf of Major General Combs, Commanding General Cadet Command, I got a call for you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, this is only about 10 carat, though.
I know, but you'll take it, though.
All right, I'll take it.
Let's give him another round of applause.
Yeah. Hey, did you get a picture of all them? Jump up there and take a picture. So he's going to jump. Hey, so how many of you guys got Facebook? So look, let me tell you something. How many of you got your phones with you? Raise your phone up. So let me have 30 seconds. So guys, let me tell you something. I'll give you a minute. Okay, 1 minute. So let me tell you, I'm in a Facebook challenge, right? And I need some more likes. So, and I'm not saying that. They told me I'm not supposed to ask for likes, but that's the only way I'm going to beat this guy is I ask for likes. So if you get a chance, go to CSM Patrick Alston, pull up my page, your picture going to be there, like it, and he's going to have the devil trying to catch me. God bless you all, and I hope I gave you some nuggets to put in your rucksack.
Okay, thank you, Bob.